one thing that we've noticed, and I've heard Queen Deborah, and Queen Emily, and King Richard all talk about the theme that is chosen for the year that we decide on is something that we are going to be tested with, personally, ourselves, in our own lives. I don't know if you guys have seen that already in your lives this year, but it seems like every year we get tested, we have trials. So I wanted to just give you a personal experience of having to be steadfast. And I didn't think of this until after the fact that this was being steadfast. A lot of times you think being steadfast is to always be doing what's right, not give in to peer pressure, not do all these things, wonderful things that we talked about in our papers. Sometimes being steadfast is saying no to something that could be good. And in this example, hopefully this makes sense. I just recently, we had a change in our ward. Our bishopric changed. A lot of things have changed. So we got a call from the stake president having my wife and I come in. And so I go, all right, let's see what this is going to be. And they asked us to do something that I thought was going to be so much fun. And they wanted us to be on the Days of 47 float parade. They wanted us to be in charge of that, that we get to do a float in our stake. And that doesn't happen very often, and it's a calling for a specific time period. We have from here to here, we got to get it done, and the parade is at this time. It was really hard to say no to a calling. We have always said yes to any calling that has come our way. But we had already committed to Summit. We had already planned the days, we had already planned the weekends, and it interfered. As in, we couldn't do that calling justice that it needed. And so it was really hard to say no. So I learned we had to be steadfast in the decisions you make. And sometimes that means saying no to something that is good. And that you stand behind what you're going to do. So I think every year we are tested with a thing that comes our way. And again, I am grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for all the new people I've seen this year, volunteer. And so I want to leave you with this by Abraham Lincoln. It says, "Be sure you put your feet in the right place, then stand firm." And I'm going to turn the time over to Richard now.
Thank you. So steadfastness means quite a few different things, but we're really focusing in on being stalwart. Let's see, some of the things I wrote down about it. Holding fast. You've heard of the term hold fast. How about resolve? Have you heard of that term? Resolve? Okay. And King Jason brought up the quote from Abraham Lincoln. Put your feet in the right place and hold firm. Stand firm. All right. There's so many examples of steadfastness and these principles that we're talking about that we could take all night doing that. Does that sound exciting? Don't lie to me. All right. One of the last things that you youth want to do is listen to us adults drone on, right? Thank you. All right, we got the truth this time. Appreciate it. I was thinking about our theme, and I was also thinking about different people in history and some in literature that kind of exemplified through their stories and through some of the decisions they made of steadfastness. And we can talk about historical figures like Gandhi. We can talk about people like Mother Teresa. If you want to go into literature, Tolkien's got quite a few of them, doesn't he? I mean, you think about Sam and Frodo, and more Sam for me. He's He's the real hero of those stories. Yeah, that's true. It's very true. Frodo did carry the burden, but Sam was the one that was stalwart at the end. I also want you to think about people or heroes in your life or in your thoughts, people that you hold as heroes, and how they have been steadfast and they have not been moved, not been movable. I mean, if you think about the prophets of the LDS Church, you know, that we see them as steadfast and able to hold the moral ground. All right. Constant is another word I like to use for steadfastness. I have a few slides that I'll show pretty soon here. Okay. And I'm only going to talk really briefly about it because after I'm done, we have an activity. So you're going, okay, hurry up, right? Does anybody know who that is? This is out of literature. Who is it?
Huron.
That is almost right. Huron, that's right. Father of Huron. Okay. Okay. If anybody knows their Tolkien Silmarillion history, the history of the Men of the West, he was known, his title was Huron the Steadfast. And he has a long, sad, but very powerful story. I don't know if any of you have read that. Well, I don't know if all of you have read that, let me say that. I know there's some in here that are probably saying that I'm mispronouncing his name even, but I've read about him and see him as a stalwart hero that stood up for what he believed. He went through a lot of hardships. Next slide. Does anybody know what that is? He faced a lot as a mortal man, didn't he? All right, now let's get out of literature. Okay, anybody know what that is? Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Has anybody been there to see the changing of the guard? Okay, maybe a half dozen of us. It's an amazing, amazing experience. In this tomb, and they've laid in front of it, they've laid the remains of some of the unknown soldiers throughout a couple of the wars that the U.S. has been involved in. And they erected that tomb, and it overlooks, it's in Arlington Cemetery in Washington, D.C., and it overlooks Washington and our nation's capital. And if you've ever watched it, I'm not going to bore you with the video. And what I mean by boring is because it takes time. It's very measured, it's very precise, it's very exact, their cadence. They take, let's see, he takes exactly 21 steps across the front of the tomb. And if you look at the mat that he's walking on, you can see it's worn. You can also see the exact spots where each one of them step, because there's more worn than the rest of it. You can see that? They take precisely 21 steps, which they say alludes to the 21 gun salute, which is the highest honor given to any military foreign dignitary. And when he gets to one end of the mat, after his 21 steps, he hesitates exactly 21 seconds and does about face and turns and returns. He carries his rifle on the shoulder, always facing away from the tomb. Let's see. And how often the guards change is another question. They're changed every 30 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Okay, and there's very specific traits that they have to have. I'm not going to go into all that detail, but for 2 years, after 2 years, the guard is given a wreath that is worn on their lapel, and it's signifying their regard of the tomb. During these 2 years, they live in barracks under the tomb and cannot drink or anything for the rest of their lives, it says. And they cannot disgrace the uniform. For the first 6 months of duty, a guard cannot talk to anyone or watch TV. And all off-duty time is spent studying that 175 notable people laid to rest in Arlington. So they're historical scholars on that as well. And I could keep going, but there's just too much to go on.